Hey, what is up, guys? Evan Aldo here. I am at the University of Miami. If you guys didn't know, this is where I went to college. Graduated about 3 years ago, and my perception of, kind of life and everything is a lot different now, and I think that's probably how it would be for most people. Definitely like self-esteem wise, I would say too, especially now, knowing what could be accomplished. And, you look back a lot of times and you think ultimately there's a lot more that if you knew, there's a lot of things that I wish I knew earlier, like when I was, 18 or 19 or 20, or even when I was 16 or 15 or even that young. And, you think about how different your life would have been. And, it's interesting. I mean, college kind of, I think, and I've kind of always known this, I don't think you have to be too advanced to really know this. It kind of teaches you more how to, be an employee, be more of a cog in the system rather than an entrepreneur, rather than somebody who's self-sufficient. So in that aspect, kind of, I've learned a lot more towards there. This was a great, it's a beautiful college. It's probably one of the nicest campuses in the United States. Very expensive school, pretty highly ranked, pretty hard to get into. Not an Ivy League though, but I worked very hard in high school to get here. In terms of how hard I've worked, probably, to become, very wealthy at a young age, all the things I did to get a lot of money, when I was, within the last few years, it was a lot less work than I would say I put in when I was in high school, or even put in when I was here. I mean, I worked a lot here too. And, the notion a lot of people have when they're in college is, let's party now, let's live it up now, because we're not going to be able to do this when we're older. We're going to have real jobs. We're going to have to, be at a certain place at a certain time. We're not going to have as much free time. We can't do what we want ever. We're not going to have that freedom. And this is important. I think that's a huge mistake, because when people always said that, I used to always think to myself, that's not going to be me. Or I would always think, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe I'm sure I doubted myself. I'm sure I wasn't 100%, confident. Nobody is. But I used to always think, no, when I'm older, I'm going to be able to do what I want. I always visualized myself being self-made, being able to do what I wanted to do, having the freedom, having, the life I wanted. That's the secret in a lot of ways. A lot of people don't think it's possible, and I doubted it a lot too. I wasn't sure a lot of times, but I think that visualization, that the way you picture things to happen could affect it. With the law of attraction, the way you picture, somebody I was listening to said, the way you picture things, years ago could affect how it looks now. Something you picture now could affect what happens in 20 years from now. That's very relevant. I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to surpass a lot of my peers. And I think, I'm saying this to, motivate you guys, to help you guys. I don't like to, I like to come off in the least arrogant as possible, the least pompous as possible, the least bloated as possible. And I think that ultimately so many people would set so many limitations on themselves. They didn't picture themselves as being able to really have what they wanted to. And, in college, you do a lot of monotonous stuff. It's a lot of monotonous work for a certain extent. But I learned, I wouldn't trade it for much. It would take a lot for me to trade the experience I have here, because I learned a ton of social skills. If you're curious, I majored in broadcast journalism and political science. And you would probably think that would be, pathway to very crazy liberalism, I guess. I don't know. But it really wasn't here. Florida, it wasn't that, crazy in that aspect. I formed good relationships with a lot of the professors, a lot of the people that I can't really speak too negatively about anything that I've experienced here. It was great, but just my perception on everything now is totally different, self-esteem wise, seeing the possibilities, seeing the power that we have in our minds, seeing everything that could happen. And when I was kind of how it happened is when I was in high school, I was visualized myself going here. This was the college I always wanted to go to. I was like Florida, there's a lot of reasons. Thought it would be really fun to go here. It wasn't really to party or anything like that. I wasn't, if you're curious, I wasn't the type of person who really partied at all, or really, I mainly just did work and studied. And I read a lot of books on my own. I did a lot of stuff on my own. I kind of, when I graduated from here, and I was, because when I first graduated, seeing, everybody, and then everybody tells you, no, you got to get into the real world. You got to work on how the real world is. You got to be an adult. You got to show up at a certain place at a certain time. You got to hate your life and all of this stuff. And take pharmaceutical medications and be a good boy, or, the normal drudgeries of life. And I was just like, wow, if that's going to be it, then all these people that were just partying and saying, let's do this, they were right. And it was, I had a good mental state, I learned a lot. I had a very, very good mental state through like meditation and other things. At that point in my life when I first graduated, I had a news broadcasting job that I quit pretty quickly. There was a few other things I tried that didn't work out too well. I kind of embarrassed myself a few times. I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, and then I was a paralegal in LA for about a year, and that's when I kind of got into crypto, and I started studying crypto a lot. But if you're curious, like how the paths went, and it was all amazing experience, really. But I'm losing my train of thought. What was I talking about, man? Oh yeah, people saying that I was always, I visualized in high school myself here. I visualized when I was here, when I was older, I would have freedom and I would have wealth, generally be able to do what I wanted to. And it plays out the way you visualize it. It plays out the way you see it happening, I think. I mean, can I prove any of this? Of course not. No way. But I could tell you anecdotally that's how it happened. Maybe I was lucky, people would say that. Obviously, there's no proof of any of this, but that's the way it played out, the way you see yourself. So I saw myself in that positive light, and the way, I listened to a lot of podcasts while I was here. I remember listening to Tim Ferriss a lot, Joe Rogan back when not too many people knew who he was, back in, probably like 2017, 2018, during that period of time when I was like 19, 20, 21, 22, through sophomore, through senior year, and I would walk around and listen to those podcasts. Went to the gym a lot. I studied a good amount. From like junior year to 3 semesters in a row, I think I had straight A's, 4.0, 3 semesters in a row. Who cares? Looking back, it was kind of useless, but yeah, did well. I got something out of it. Did I learn anything that useful? Kind of. The thing that you learn the most is probably the social skills a lot with broadcast journalism. That was interesting too, like interviewing people, really being able to do that. That's not easy, and editing all that stuff, that is hard. And most of the people who go into that, they end up quitting. If you're not familiar with how that path usually goes, I quit after two days. I quit after 2 days. Everybody thought I was losing my mind, but that was interesting. I can't believe I did that. But you don't get paid much. I think the first job that I quit after 2 days paid $30K a year. That's the normal starting salary. Doesn't pay much at all. You're expected to do a lot of work. The people you work for usually aren't that experienced in the field at all. You got to kind of work your way up, and it's a different level of broadcasting. Even what I do right now, this is broadcasting too. I make more, and I probably pay more in taxes I pay way more in taxes than I would make in a year, in a year now. So that's kind of how it is. And you got to be, as an employee, you can't really get that far. And I look, we had a lot of good mentors too. It was a good program. I think one of my teachers was a chief meteorologist, and for one of the news stations here. Another one was a news anchor for one of the stations. I don't know exactly how much they made. I'd have to look that up. Well over 6 figures. Do they make as much as I make now? I don't think so. I don't know. Who cares? It's not relevant. But I'm saying somebody who spent all these years and worked so hard at it to move up in the system as an employee may not even make what a 25-year-old who was one of their students made, in just a different kind of, a different trajectory of being more entrepreneurial, taking more risks, and, in terms of visualization, in terms of all these things. I feel like, that documentary about the law of attraction, that's called The Secret. And, most people are going to tell you, the first thing they're going to say, there is no secret. Well, what do we do? There's no secret. There's no get rich quick. There's none of that. That's, that would seem like common sense. And I mean, I was definitely a lot more open-minded than the average person, way more open-minded than the average person. But even to me, I would think that's kind of nonsense. But, having watched it and having heard a lot of anecdotal stories of people with it, then I put it into practice. And then I realized, I kind of looked back at my life and I saw like why a lot of the things happened the way they happened. And I was kind of putting that all together, and then I figured out, yeah, you can actually have what you want. It doesn't have to be a daily drudgery where you wake up and you go to a job and do monotonous nonsense that you hate all day. It can be like that if you let it, but it really doesn't have to be, believe it or not. And, there was one person I listened to a while ago that I think she said, like, all the big names, all the very successful people would tell you to try to be successful like them. And why would you listen to anyone else? Why would you listen to someone who isn't successful? That's another thing I was listening to. You could learn a lot more than you think. You can expand your mind a lot more. You could become, even if you're not that smart right now, people say you can't increase IQ level. I think that's one of the biggest lies in the world. You can increase IQ level. Like, I feel like my IQ level is a lot higher than it was maybe everybody thinks this, but I think it was a lot higher than it was when I was here or in high school or in college or even 2 years ago. Like, I feel like you could really improve that through focus, through visualization, through a lot of different ways. Bob Proctor died pretty recently. He's one of those big law of attraction teachers. He said he could barely even, I think, read and write when somebody, first told him about law of attraction, first gave him the book, Think and Grow Rich, and he was able to make, I think it was equivalent in today's money, $1 million in a year. He started a cleaning business, something like that. But you'd be surprised, you'd really be surprised. And, it comes back to all of that. You can create, your mind. You need to be, one of the other things I was listening to the other day, a guy was talking about it. He said, you want to go to sleep excited about the future. You want to be excited for a future that you create. Say you want something, say it's, the standard, say it's $1 million or something. Be excited that you're going to get that pretty soon. What would it feel like? That type of thing. I remember I was excited to, even though it was hard. I didn't even know if I would go to this college when I was in high school, but I was excited to go here. Even when I didn't know if I would get in, I didn't know, even you would think I would have been able to get in really easily. No, it was, I wasn't, I was smart. I was above average in high school, but to get into a college like this, it wasn't the easiest thing. But I acted like I was smart enough. Act like you're smart enough. And going here, was that the best choice? Who knows? I used it well, I think, from what I said. Even then, people say fake it until you make it. And you want to do that too. You don't want to go too crazy, And nobody likes a braggart who's, showing off, talking about stuff, showing off their car that they barely can't even afford, or their car they rented. Don't do that. That's kind of stupid in my opinion. But, you want to kind of act like, in the least arrogant way possible, act like you're successful. And that could mean maybe even being more generous, or maybe even being a nicer person. It depends. It's kind of relative to what that means. And that's kind of the thing that I concluded. That's the thing that I could kind of conclude in thinking back here. You know, when everybody said, to reiterate this, when everybody said that, you know, let's party now because we're not going to be able to do this, we're going to have to work some crappy job after we graduate, I would say to myself, or I don't even remember what I would, if I would say it out loud, I would think to myself at least, no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to have this freedom forever. That's my conclusion on this. That's what I concluded from it. So that's what I will probably leave you with. It's been about 15 minutes. It's important the way you view yourself. View yourself in a very positive light. So self-esteem is definitely huge. If you view yourself the way you want to be already, and then you will craft and you will come into that place you want to be at. That's what I would say. That's how you get there, in my opinion. And I think that's going to help you out a lot. I think I've expressed a lot of good things in this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hope you guys have a great day. All right, goodbye, guys.